go last. Jerry Pritchett will be the first man up, and I know that after pushing that thing, Bill, that there are some other things that you really think that these athletes are going to have to keep in mind, especially from a technique standpoint with their shoulders.
Yes, actually pushing it with your hands out after trying it, I would be a little more inclined to put my shoulders directly on the implement to push, because that way you're not wearing out those relatively weaker muscles of your shoulder girdle, and you're really pushing with your shoulders. But these guys have epic shoulder strength. They might actually keep their arms out, so that allows them to get a little bit lower for leverage.
It is standing room only here at the Greater Columbus Convention Center. The doors open around 8:30 in the morning, and this place was packed. About 5 minutes later, make sure that Maciej Belshak is actually going to be up first. And he has a minute to go, and with those arms extended, he has that thing moving pretty well.
Looks like his belt has come off from around his waist.
5 seconds, he's already gone 29 feet.
But notice his hips are very low, and he's pushing up. Now he's got his shoulder against it. His shoulder girdle started to get weakened, so now he's got his shoulder against it. You have to be a little creative with this event. You're just matching the event, matching this implement, doing everything you can to make movement forward, forward, forward.
Inside 20 seconds to go for Maciej Belshak, who has kept this thing moving at a pretty consistent pace, but now starting to slow. Final seconds for Belshak. And he is still giving this thing all he is worth, and that will do it. They will mark the distance and reset that, but a great effort for the man from Slovenia, Maciej Belshak.
He was able to keep up the pressure on the implement for the full minute, which is fantastic.
Belshak making his second appearance here at the Arnold Strongman Classic, and started with his arms extended, and that quickly changed.
Yes, it did. Then he went to the shoulder, and he turned his body a little bit sideways. I think it's just a feel. It's going to be really something that the athletes have to figure out on their own as they go through the event. Notice, though, that he's keeping his hips down.
Maciej Kielerskowski is next, the youngster out of Poland who has a very bright future in this sport. He's only 25 years old and has already been to the Arnold Strongman Classic 5 times. He's been 4th 3 years in a row. Belshak's score of 105 feet 6 inches. 8 men to go. Kielerskowski is next.
He's a taller athlete, so he might have a little bit more challenge to get his hips down. But he could just pick one of the taller implements to push.
Kielerskowski's tied for 8th after those first 2 events. Needs to start scoring some points to start moving himself up the leaderboard, and he will start the same way as Belshak did, with his arms fully extended, digging in to push that wheel of pain around. Now those wheels are not solid. The wheels on which this thing turns are filled with 150 pounds of sand. That means you can't get any momentum on this thing.
No, the sand rocks back against you, so you have to continually overcome that friction and that rocking back of the sand. But notice that that matting is actually overlaid to give some grooves for the athlete to push their feet against. Now going to the shoulders.
Inside 20 seconds to go for Kielerskowski, trying to beat Maciej Belshak's mark of 105 feet 6 inches.
Notice the laser hanging down on the implement.
It's at the bottom of that sculpted creature's head, and that helps the judges mark how far Kielerskowski gets. That thing will rock back a little bit when he is done, but they do give him forward progress, and then they will mark that with his nameplate. So Belshak is short, or I'm sorry, is still your leader, as Kielerskowski was just a couple feet short.
Okay, so he's got his hands on the implement. He's pushing. Got his hips really nice and low. But again, the shoulders and the upper body are the weaker link in your chain. So then you go to the shoulders directly against the implement, but your hips come up a little bit higher.
And this implement is basically a replica from the famous Conan the Barbarian movie that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. And in the movie, he pushed it with his arms out. Now, but that was a movie. This is now reality.
Yes, correct.
Gravity acts a little bit different in reality.
Yes, it does, and I believe the implement that Conan was pushing will probably get a little momentum, but this does not.
Well, Jerry Pritchett is up next. Steve Slater is one of the judges. He is the man closest to your screen, and he is instructing Jerry Pritchett. And Pritchett, 60 seconds underway, and just like the other two athletes, hands fully extended and moving this thing at a decent clip.
With your hands extended, you can drop your hips a little bit more, and I think that's the approach they're all taking. But that's a tremendous amount of pressure against your hands, your wrists, your elbows, and your shoulders, your upper back.
If you follow Jerry Pritchett on Instagram, you may have seen him practicing this. He works at as a metal fabricator for a public utilities transportation department in his home state of Arizona. He rigged up a barrel that he attached to his truck, and he would push his truck up a hill to sort of simulate this. So he's kind of practiced this kind of movement.
Well, that just means he's preparing. He's a professional.
Matjaž Belšak still has the top mark, but we are early. This is only our third of 9 athletes to go here. 105 feet 6 inches is the top mark, and we're inside now. 5 seconds for Jerry Pritchett. And Pritchett is done. It looks like he is well shy of both Belšak and Kaliszkowski.
Just to call attention to the deadlift yesterday, he looks like he did have a bit of an issue with one of his hamstrings yesterday, and I believe it was his right hamstring. So that's a tough injury to have with this event. 76
feet 9 inches for Jerry Pritchett, who was basically consistent throughout this entire push.
Yes, he was, and he kept the pressure going. He's also dealing with a little bit of pain, probably cramping from that tight hamstring from the deadlift yesterday.
And now the youngster, Alexei Novikov, in his first ever Arnold Strongman Classic. He was the 2018 Arnold Strongman Amateur Champion. And very impressive performance yesterday in event number 2 in the Husafell Stone Carry. He had the top mark until Hafthor Bjornsson came out and beat it.
So he's already proven that he's very good with strength endurance events.
But he is one of the lighter athletes here, just 302 pounds, 137 kilograms. And now going with his head underneath it, we saw Mikhail Shivlikov do the same thing on Thursday night. It seems to be working pretty well for Novikov.
Now this is an approach that I don't think we've discussed. Shoulders on it, but with his head under the implement. I hope the other guys are watching.
And Novikov is threatening to demolish Matjaž Belšak's top distance. He's past Pritchett. His pace has slowed, but he has about 20 seconds to go. That's how far away he is from Belšak's top mark.
Resetting a little bit. Every step is points. He could take the lead.
5 seconds for Belšak, and he will be your new leader. I'm sorry, that's Novikov. He passes Belšak. So Alexei Novikov once again with an impressive performance, and now has the top mark in the Wheel of Pain.
That's a thinking man.
He is a smart guy. He holds a master's degree in international economics, and he works as a business and financial advisor when he's not competing.
Wow,
113 feet.
Obviously took the lead. Steve pushing his shoulder off the end of the sculpted animal head there. But he keeps his hips low, and he keeps that pressure and that leverage going. And obviously the pain issue, he's got that down, as he showed yesterday with the Husafell stone. He's got a strong mind for keeping going under the pain.
113 feet for the youngster from Ukraine. And he's been impressive so far. This is the third of 5 events in the most prestigious strongman competition in the world. You mentioned this yesterday. I mean, this event defines strongman.
Yes, it does. what happens with the Arnold is that, okay, no matter what happens with other television shows and strongman competitions, this is the one that gives you street cred because it is the heaviest, and it is the one that has the most dominating. It is the one that has the most dominating forces in strongman coming to bear here because they have implements and roads behind all these implements.
This is where we stand so far as Alexei Novikov just set the mark to beat at 113 feet. And now, Mikhail Shivlikov, who is a man who went with that similar technique that Novikov used on Thursday night, but choosing to change things up a little bit here at the start.
So he started with his hands out. Now he's put his hands in. He's just got his shoulders a little bit closer. But he has an indomitable will. He's gonna keep pushing here in a moment.
And now taking a break and getting that thing moving again.
There's no momentum advantage here. That sand starts to move and friction starts to take hold.
And now going with a similar technique to Novikov.
Even pushing his hands off of his thighs. He's using his whole body.
He's past Pritchett. 5 seconds to go. Oh, it looks like he might be close to third. We'll have to wait for the official score, but he does not get the Maciej Belshak's nameplate, who now sits in second place. But Mikhail Shivlikov, the Siberian force, applying some pretty impressive force to the Wheel of Pain, 103 feet.
He's got his hands against the implement. Really a close hand placement so he's not putting strain on his shoulders. And then he goes to that technique that Novikov brought out for us. And now he's pushing his hands against his thighs. But it's all about leverage. Getting low and continuing to push. Even when he stopped, he went right back to it. So he embraced that pain and kept going.
Brian Shaw will be up next, as they are going according to overall standings, going in reverse order. Second in the elephant bar deadlift and struggled in the Husafel stone carry. Has a little bit of a hamstring issue, and there was some question as to whether or not he might even be able to continue. But, Bill, I know you're not shocked to see him back here on day two.
Absolutely. He is a professional. He's prepared for this. Wait for the lion to come and make a roar coming back.
Brian Shaw started the day 8 points back of Hafthor Bjornsson for the overall lead. The distance to beat belongs to Alexei Novikov. And Brian Shaw outweighs Novikov by more than 100 pounds.
With his height and his weight, if he gets his hips down, he's going to create a lot of forward force. He's got it moving. Notice how it's one leg at a time. So it's just, it really, all that force goes on one hip and one knee at a time. So he's just on one foot for each push.
Shaw off to a pretty solid start here.
Quite good, actually. Very low position for a man of his height. That's a lot of leverage.
20 seconds to go now for Brian Shaw. Moving at a very steady clip. And continuing to gain distance. And now,
okay, the pain is set in. He's going to this other technique as a tall man. That might not work for him because of his height.
Shaw, by any means necessary, just trying to move that thing, and that'll be it. And Shaw failed to catch the lead pack there as he goes 95 feet. Not the result he was looking for.
It is disappointing. It's obvious that his leg's bothering him. He got to a good start. He's got a good low leverage. He's on the end of the implement. And then he resets himself and tries that technique, but a little taller for that technique. But he pushed the whole minute, so Brian really embraced that pain and gave his best effort as we would expect.
It is a little difficult to tell on television, but those poles, those wooden poles where they're pushing, they are set at different heights for the athletes. They can choose where they want to push.
Yes, and that was a consideration because of the different heights of the athletes. If it was too high, that wouldn't be fair to the shorter competitors. If it was too low, it wouldn't be fair to the taller competitors. So this is a very well thought out apparatus. As we said before, it's beautiful and it's heavy, but it's also an engineering feat.
8,000 pounds of steel, 7,000 pounds of oak on this thing, and Martins Licis is up next. He is 7 points back of Hafthor Bjornsson. Right now, Licis tied for second overall. And Jan Todd stepping in for a second as Licis was ready to go, and now we'll reset.
So Licis has chalk on his shoulder, so I think he's going to go to that technique that Novikov showed us.
So only 4 men have surpassed the 100-foot mark. Alexei Novikov, for the second straight time, has a lead at 113 feet even. He had that lead in the Husafell stone carry until Hafthor Bjornsson beat it, and Bjornsson will be the last man to go here. And Martins Licis, a 5th and a 4th. And we saw him compete very impressively in Santa Monica. And you think this is an event that sets up well for him?
Yes, it does, because he's very strong mentally, and he's what we would call a gamer. So when it really counts, he knows exactly what he needs to do to create a result.
Martins Licis, he grew up in Latvia before he moved to California when he was 20, and he trained by lifting stones at his grandparents' farm. His nickname is the Dragon. And Norwegian strongman legend Odd Haugen took him under his wing. He thought that Licis was too junior to compete, offered to train him. Clearly that was a good choice for Martins Licis to accept that offer.
Yes, absolutely. So with that tutelage and his natural abilities, and just his determination. I know we talk a lot about determination. Everybody really wants to win, but it's being able to commit. And that's exactly what we saw in Santa Monica. He committed himself on the last couple of events to take that victory.
The reason everyone wants to win this, not only is prestige a factor, but so is the money. A lot of money on the line here for these strongmen. First place walks away with $72,000. $22,000 for second place, and each person will walk away with some sort of monetary reward here. But the prestige of being able to call yourself the Arnold Strongman Classic champion, I think for a lot of these athletes, the money is nice, but I think that title might be even more meaningful to them.
Yes, again, this is about street cred. This is the heaviest event each year, and this is like the Masters. This is the one that athletes really want to win.
Just look at this crowd that is on hand here at the Greater Columbus Convention Center. All kinds of things going on this weekend, but this strongman competition is definitely one of the main events. And Martins Licis is ready to go, and he will try to chase down Alexei Novikov's top mark of 113 feet.
Got a good start. Hips are low, very good leverages. He's pushing up on this implement.
Licis with a good pace.
Yes, he does. And as you saw yesterday with the Husafell stone, he's got that good rhythmic breathing, forcing air in, pulling air, forcing air into his lungs and pushing air out of his lungs.
30 seconds. He's past Pritchett. Pritchett's mark was 76 feet 9 inches.
This is where it comes down to will. What does he want to do with this implement is up to him at this point.
He's now past Brian Shaw. Shaw's mark of 95 feet. And he's creeping up on Alexei Novikov. And Martins Licis looks like he will be your new leader. And he still has some time, and he is done. But Martins Licis overtakes Alexei Novikov, and with 2 athletes to go, he has the top mark.
So again, just proving his mental strength. He fought through that pain. He had to continue on after stopping once.
You thought he would do well in this, and you were right. Martins Licis, your new leader, Bill.
Yeah, so he's got good low leverages. He's got some good rhythmic breathing going to get past this. And now he's just in the pain zone. He's pushing. He knows that he's got a lead coming, and he makes it.
119 feet, 9 inches for the Dragon, who is currently tied for second place and trails Hafthor Bjornsson by 7 points. Rano Heinle is the man tied with Martins Licis, and he will be up next, getting some final instructions from Steve Slater, one of the men responsible for helping to construct this impressive implement.
If you notice, he's got chalk on his shoulders. I think everybody's keeping this possible avenue open of putting their shoulders on the implement. So a little bit of chalk.
Remember, they're only able to push from the rope section.
Yes, they cannot push on the creatures, the sculpted creatures on the end. I think that's a fragile part of this. They don't want to break the implement. But being as far out as possible for leverage is what the athletes are trying to do.
Rano Heinle from Estonia up next. The top mark belongs to Martins Licis, 119 feet, 9 inches.
He's got a little bit of momentum going, as much as you can create. He's good and low. Looks like he's got a good breathing pattern going. He's got really good hip flexor strength, as you can see in his deadlift technique. Now he's down to the shoulders, but still good low hips.
And he continues to move forward.
Yes. So you take out the weaker musculature of the shoulders and pushing the implement, but your hips come a little bit higher, and you can't lean into it quite as much when you go to this technique, but it does help create a little more force forward, and that it's on your shoulders. And each of the athletes appear to also have learned that they can push against their thighs. That's just happening. He's not thinking about that. He's just doing everything he can to overcome this implement.
Final seconds for Heinle.
Breathing hard, in, out.
And he is done.
Wow.
Couldn't see the nameplate, so we're not sure exactly where he is, but that was a very impressive effort. He is short, obviously, of Martins Licis.
This is how close this competition is. Look at this. We're right.
Wow. Heinle needs to be helped off. 102 feet, 9 inches for Rano Heinle. And that means that Martins Licis will move ahead of him in the overall standings, and only one man remains, and that is the mountain. But Rano Heinle did a pretty good job of keeping forward momentum on this thing.
Yes, he did. Good low hips. Then he gets his shoulders behind it, pushing against his thighs, trying to squeeze every second out of this. And just to show you what kind of implement this is, the Wheel of Pain, watch how he collapses when he finishes. Look at this. That just tells you how they've exerted themselves.
Again, this thing weighs 20,000 pounds. And the effort to push it is basically similar to the effort it would take to push a fire truck.
Yes.
Martins Licis is your leader, 119 feet, 9 inches. Hafthor Bjornsson, who has won the first 2 events here, is the last man to go. And here we go.
Hafthor's from Iceland. He's going to call on a lot of spirit. In Icelandic, they say "Kommissar," which means "come on, let's go."
Bjornsson moving extremely well here. As long as he doesn't finish towards the bottom, he will remain your overall leader. And now he's starting to get to the tail end of things as he's chasing down Jerry Pritchett and Brian Shaw, and now going to that style we first saw that Alexei Novikov employ. Inside 30 seconds.
20 seconds. There he goes. He passes Pritchett.
This one will be close.
Yes, every name that he passes is points. But he's keeping it going. He's got his shoulders against it. He's keeping his hips low, even for a tall man.
That's where Licis' nameplate is, and Bjornsson is quickly approaching that. Final seconds. And Hafthor Bjornsson may not have gotten there, but he was close. He might have been a few inches short, and he collapses as something finally brings down the mountain. And we will have to look what the official measurement is, and it looks like Martins Licis just edging out Hafthor Bjornsson. But Bjornsson, with a second-place finish in this event, unofficially will rack up 9 points, and he will remain your overall leader. And Martins Licis is climbing now the Wheel of Pain after conquering this implement. Crush your enemies. See them driven before you and hear the lamentations of the women.
Wow, just by a few inches. So those are very valuable points. So when Hafthor passed those other athletes,
and Hafthor Bjornsson is still down, just being checked out by the medical staff as a precaution. What an incredible effort from Bjornsson. Won't win every event, but he is still your overall leader. He will have 29 out of a possible 30 total points with 2 events remaining, and he's going to be a tough man to catch on that overall leaderboard as the medical staff now helping Bjornsson to his feet as he looks to be right now okay.
He completely exerted himself.
So just 6 inches separating Martins Licis from Hafthor Bjornsson. Alexei Novikov continues to impress. Another top 3 finish for him at 113 feet